And welcome in to the Week 2 slate preview of the Fantasy 4-Pack. Had to remind myself of the words I was going to use there for a second. Week 2 slate preview, Fantasy 4-Pack. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matthew Vitale, Frankie Santiago. And we're bringing you the first half of the Week 2 breakdown. So we're going to be going through the first 7 games. As usual, we will be touching on the over-under, talking about any plays we think are good, plays we think are bad. We might mention a few poignant DFS plays on the way through as well, so keep your ears peeled if you play that. Before we launch into the slate breakdown, a little bit of news. Michael Thomas, news did not get better. He is going to be missing multiple weeks confirmed now. They're saying it's likely he's out until after the Saints' Week 6 bye. Thomas wants to get back before that. I really don't care. If it's so bad that he needs to miss multiple weeks, I don't want him back before that. Just rest up. Hopefully he's actually fully healthy to go after that Week 6 bye.
He will not be.
Are you guys in the same camp where it's like, if he comes back before that, just don't touch him?
I mean, he was already on my cell. Maybe somebody really didn't hear this, but that's not how I like to trade. I like to be full honest and not try and swindle somebody because that's a good way to ruin a league. But no, maybe you can sell it to somebody who already won week 1, is very confident in their team, thinks that they can add Thomas, and you can get something out of somebody who's trying to already stash for playoffs. But
sure,
I'm just, once again, so glad I have on none of my teams, and I'm just full sell. Get them off your team if you can. Otherwise, hopefully you draft you deep at wide receiver.
Honestly, I think this might make him a buy for me. If you're someone who's stacked, if you have some pieces to move, this
probably
honestly
get him really cheap.
Yeah, because Thomas owners are probably in a pickle. So if you're someone who you can afford to take on Thomas and just basically know that he's not going to help you for probably the first half of the season, he's someone who I actually would be targeting in leagues right now because he's someone who could. He's still Michael Thomas. Once he gets healthy, he's going to help you win your league. So if you can get him for 40 cents on the dollar right now, 50 cents on the dollar, I do that. But you might have to wait a week or two to let the panic really set in for the Thomas owner. They might not, especially if they somehow snuck out a win in week 1, they might still be sitting pretty, being like, I'm fine. I can weather this.
It's just the dog with the burning room meme.
Yeah.
This is good. This is okay.
This is good. Jameson Crowder had a hammy. Actually, I hope he still has his hammy, but he had a hammy injury. Looks like he's going to be questionable for week 2. Hopefully, you aren't counting on him in your lineups because he did not have a great matchup for week 2. San Francisco's a pretty tough team to play against. Yeah. But if you were counting on him, just keep an eye on him. He'll probably be a game time decision. At least watch to see if he practices more as the week goes on.
It's Brashad
Galladay. Still not practicing. So if I'm a Galladay owner, I'm kind of worried right now because he obviously missed last week. He was ruled out fairly early, and now he's still not practicing this week. I'm not abandoning ship, but I'm putting out feelers if I'm a Galladay owner. Seeing maybe what I can do to ride this one out in the meantime because. You don't like to see a guy just straight up not making practice after not playing the week for the previous week.
His situation is I'm a little more positive on. I think he's a hold for me. Just because Galladay's never been the sexy name to rake in trades where like a Julio, even if Julio's hurt. So I think if you're someone who took him, back of the second, top of the third, you're not going to be happy with the return you're getting for him. So he's a guy, I'm holding him and, hopefully you were hot on the waiver wire this week to try and get somebody to fill in and try and just ride the storm out because my guess is we're going to at least see him back next week. They're probably just being very cautious with him.
Yeah.
Like I said, his report sounds far better than Thomas's, so he's somebody I'm not ready to abandon ship yet.
Yeah. And if you missed our waiver wire show, but you're wondering who might be some good ads this week, maybe everyone didn't get snapped up in your league. Go back, check it out, see who we were recommending, and then go see if any of them are still just hanging out there on your waiver wire because who knows, you might have had some bozo league mates who forgot to pick them up. But there is quite a few notable names on this injury report today. Godwin in the concussion protocol still, so he's definitely going to be someone we're going to want to watch this week because obviously concussions can linger. There's no sort of one size fits all as to how long concussions last. So definitely keep your eye on Godwin. If Godwin doesn't play, obviously you're still starting Mike Evans, assuming that he doesn't degrade on the injury report, because he's questionable also, but he was questionable last week too. Are you starting any of the other Bucs players in lieu of Godwin if he doesn't go?
Probably not. I'm probably just going to lean on the tight end. I think this is a good O.J. Howard game if he's out. Just knowing Brady. But I think this is just a slight uptick for the running backs and for O.J. Howard. Evans, it could be an uptick in targets, but you still don't know how many he's coming down with.
I mean, Bruce Arians did say that he never likes it when Evans gets less than 10 targets. So, if you give Evans 10 targets, he's going to catch 3 of those.
You're giving him 3 on 10?
I think he actually, to be fair, I think he has a roughly 56% career catch rate. So if they're actually giving Evans 10 targets a week, I do become more interested then, because he's a receiver who doesn't need a lot of targets to succeed. Because he's someone who he can just disappear with any ball. So if they're giving him 10, that does give him a pretty good chance to end up in the end zone every week. But not exciting for Godwin. Thankfully, it is just a concussion, not something because those do generally pass fairly quickly. So Godwin, get healthy quick. We want to see you back on the field. You're easily the best player on the Buccaneers. Phillip Lindsay, this is going to be a longer term one. So if you're a Melvin Gordon owner, rejoice. Phillip Lindsay has turf toe. He will likely miss some time with this, and if he plays through it, he's going to be ineffective, because that's just what turf toe is. We've seen that time and time again.
Particularly with AJ Green too.
Yeah, it hampers. Obviously, you use your feet for everything in football, but it hampers your ability to run at full speed, to plant, to cut. It makes it very painful, and it's as I understand, it's mostly. I've never had turf toe, but it's. Yeah. From how I understand, it's mostly a pain management thing. So if it's something where they can just shoot him full of drugs, maybe he can still play. But it still does limit what you can do on the football field.
Yeah, like we were talking about last episode, where if you're a Michael Thomas owner, talk to the guy who owns Saquon. If you're somebody who's in on Lindsay and want 0 RB, talk to the Cooper owner in your league. They probably know all about turf toe, how fun that is to deal with.
Sure. And I'm just checking to see if we have an update on Phillip Lindsay, because last I saw that he was supposed to get reevaluated yesterday. I don't see on at least my news app here, I don't see an update on him, so we might still be waiting to see exactly what the prognosis is. But that is another thing too. If you're a Lindsay owner, or if you're a Melvin Gordon owner, something to keep your eye on as the week goes on, because if Lindsay doesn't play, that's even against the Steelers, that's still a massive upgrade for Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon might go from a sit to a week play. Kittle, unlikely to practice this week, but the coaches are hopeful he's going to be able to play Sunday. And this might be a case of kind of like what we've seen with Julio in recent years, where Julio, kind of always just carries that Q tag, take rests during the week, and then plays on Sunday. If Kittle plays, you have to play him. But it sounds like the coaches are hopeful he plays. I'm hoping he doesn't, because I don't want to have that tough decision. But and as we said on last episode, if you have another strong option at tight end, consider playing them. Otherwise, you just plug Kittle in. Are you guys in the same boat still?
Most situations I would be looking elsewhere. But Kittle's talent, where you drafted him, and the fact that there's all they were talking about during that game was just how ineffective their wide receivers were to get open. So for me, Kittle's if you got him, you got to start him unless you got a premium, backup behind him.
Sure. And then last but not least, Odell Beckham on the trade block. The Browns just seem to be fed up with him.
I'm very unsurprised.
I'm not either. He's someone who it seems like the talent kind of superseded the actual desire to play. He shot his way out of New York. It seems like he's just not jiving with that Browns team now. I mean, you do have to put some of the blame on Baker's shoulders. Baker obviously was having trouble targeting him, but it just seems like he and OBJ have no chemistry. OBJ's dropping passes, Baker's overthrowing him. It might just be a situation where, this just isn't the fit for Odell.
Which is weird too, because I mean, when he first got there, he seemed happy to be out of New York. He seemed happy to be on like a team that was like a
Frankie,
contender.
it's like when you start dating a new person. And it's it's the honeymoon period where everything's perfect, and then a couple months down the road, that's when you start finding out that there's someone who like leaves their toothbrush upside down in the sink, or like they walk around the house with their shoes on or something like that.
Well, it's like they were Super Bowl favorites. I'm going to put air quotes on that. And then we saw what they were last season. They kind of pulled it together at the end, but a little bit too late. I mean, that's a mulligan. I mean, I think that there's still a lot of talent on the team. Baker isn't the worst. I mean, obviously he's not what you want at quarterback all the time. He's nowhere in Rodgers or Pat Mahomes, but
I mean, I still don't think we've seen what Baker can be. And obviously, we've seen him be very efficient at throwing the ball to Jarvis Landry and Kareem Hunt when he got him last year. Part of me wonders if OBJ is kind of holding down Baker because they have to target OBJ that much, and he and Baker just don't have chemistry. Part of me wonders is if they get is this addition by subtraction? If they get rid of Odell Beckham, do the Browns get better?
I was gonna say I don't think we've seen what the Browns can be in general.
Yeah, for me, this is just one of those. He's a typical, grass is always green on the other side kind of thing. He was just sick of New York, and anywhere would have been hype for him. So it's one of those things. I kind of hate to be right on it, but I've always looked at Odell as a supremely talented player, but he is a hype train kind of player. He's like the Panthers when they went 15-1. When they were winning and everything was going good, they were amazing.
Yeah.
And as soon as it started falling off the rails, it fell off the rails hard.
I mean, a couple of years ago, he was a first-round pick.
I mean, hey, the Browns, the Patriots have a pretty good working relationship. Maybe the Browns send him to New England for cheap, and we can mix up that receiving core. I mean,
please God, no.
You can't say we don't need it after watching that game Sunday.
Yeah, like I said, for me, it might just be he needs like a dominant type of coach that can really lead a room, or he needs a quarterback that is just a Hall of Famer already in their own right. So
I think he might have both of those in New England. Bill Belichick, and you can make a case for Cam Newton.
Yeah, like I said, I think he needs to go to like a team where it is clear, like he doesn't have to, he can play second fiddle to somebody. He doesn't have to lead the team, and he has a quarterback that he can't like try and like, oh, what have you done?
Yeah. One news item that I did skip over, I was reading down my list. LeVeon Bell was placed on injured reserve yesterday. So, if you're a Bell owner, I'm sorry.
If you're a Frank Gore owner,
yeah, just to further Vitale's anti-Gase take from yesterday, you're going to be without LeVeon Bell for a little bit. He's not eligible to return until after week 5. So, you're minimum losing him for 4 weeks.
I can't, I want to blame Gase for this somehow, but
I mean, Gase blames Gase for it. He was like, if only I didn't put LeVeon Bell back in after he got hurt.
It's just one of those things where, even though this is probably the smart thing to keep him healthy instead of forcing him through, we've heard from Philly where they make him, play through some injuries, it's probably in the long run the best, but still, I just want to blame Gase because I know it's his fault somehow.
I mean, conspiracy theory time. If we want to, connect the red strings like Charlie Kelly. Gase has already said that he doesn't like Le'Veon Bell. What if he's just placing him on IR because he wants to get Frank Gore out there, and putting Bell on IR allowed him to sign Kalen Ballage, who we all know is Gase's real favorite. Gase now has the perfect situation. He's like, oh boy, I get rid of Le'Veon Bell, and now I have Frank Gore and Kalen Ballage to choose from? Hot diggity dog.
I would love to connect those strings, but I think with how Bell was when he was leaving Pittsburgh, even not from just him directly, there were sources that were leaking out about how he was going to sit and how he was unhappy with the situation. If that was even close to true, I think honestly there might be more on Bell's side. He might be kind of done with the Jets and Gase not wanting him, as he said, as soon as he got to the team. So he might be like, yeah, my foot. I'm not ready to go. I need to go on IR.
I mean, it's kind of like I mean,
He just shows up to practice on Monday. He's like, oh, my leg, it's just so sore.
I mean, different sport, but I mean, it's kind of similar to Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs when Kawhi was just like, yeah, I'm just not going to play.
Yeah. He's like, nope, I'm still injured, coach. Can't make it today.
I'm monitoring this issue.
I'm still sick. But LeVeon Bell is obviously talent-wise, one of the best running backs in the league. Hope he gets healthy soon. Hopefully Gase pulls his head out of his ass and we get to see Bell go back to being LeVeon Bell. And I believe his deal's done after the year. So if that's if it really is just Gase and Le'Veon Bell or two diametrically opposed, maybe he goes back to Pittsburgh.
I was gonna say that too. I was like, hey, I mean, there's a trade deadline still to come up, and you usually trade some older stars.
I mean, James Conner's already broken. Like that would be fantastic if the Jets just trade Le'Veon Bell back to Pittsburgh. And then we just get the old school like Pittsburgh offense, except instead of Antonio Brown and Juju, now it's Juju and Deontay. Sign me up. I could be in for that.
I mean, when the trade deadline happens, Antonio Brown will be allowed to play football again. We could just get
I want Juju and Deontay. I don't want Antonio.
I know.
But Le'Veon, send Gase, if you're listening to our podcast, send Le'Veon Bell back to Pittsburgh.
Wait, but why not all three?
No. I don't want Antonio Brown. There's already a new alpha on that team. His name's Juju. Were you not watching that game? Juju looked awesome.
I wasn't.
All right, let's get into the breakdown of the slate. But before we do, Frankie, you want to show off the sort of seltzer?
It's a super brew. Today? This is Willie's Super Brew.
I've had about one sip, and that might be all I have.
I mean, you're the one who said pineapples are superior earlier.
Yeah, pineapples are good. This doesn't taste like pineapple. This tastes like I'm drinking malt liquor that someone's like squeezed a little bit of pineapple juice into.
Which is, I mean, they use real fruits. I mean, I'm a fan. I like the mango one a little bit more, but
Frankie, I feel like you would have been better off just getting us some Foodies and some orange juice.
Ooh, idea. I got next week. We could go for some brass monkeys.
Let's get into the slate.
All right. Thursday game, very exciting. Who's ready for the Ohio Bowl? The two best teams in the state of Ohio in the game of football at the professional level.
I'm gonna say, I think there's some college teams that might want to stake that claim.
Bengals and Browns. Massive over-under of 43 points. It was nice for 1 week when we had a good Thursday game, and then just immediately afterwards they're like, hey, you want to watch two orange teams fail to score points? No, I don't, NFL. Why are you doing this? I'm not excited for this game at all. I'm going to watch it because it's the only game on and I have to watch it.
I got to say, the fact that it's not the lowest over-under with the amount of points both of these teams scored last week is kind of surprising.
I mean, the other low over-unders are barely below this one, and most of them are just because there's one team that's going to score all the points, the other team that I assume is just going to sit on the bench. We're going to get to those in a second, but
yeah, actually, I'm not surprised. I think this one could still score some points just because I think both of their defenses are inept enough, and they can make enough mess ups. There's enough elite talent that OBJ or AJ Green can just rip one off on a broken up coverage or something like that. And like I said, it's going to be a sloppy game. I hope to see the Bengals just show out and show that they, drafted a real quarterback. And I just want to see the Browns sink back to where they're back to always, just because I was in on them. And then I don't know if everyone jumped on the bandwagon or whatnot, but like I said, I'm off the Browns again. Since he's the new darling for me, that I hope I want to see him make the playoffs and give it a good shot.
So, as far as players in this game, I mean, you're starting probably all three running backs. Are you starting? I mean, AJ Green, I guess, but are you starting anyone else? All three running backs, AJ Green.
I mean,
can you roll Odell Beckham out there with any sort of confidence in this matchup?
I mean, I think
you're gonna have to.
It's at least Thursday night at home, but
I think if you draft him, you have to.
Yeah, absolutely not. He was a third or fourth round pick in a lot of leagues. You might not have a lot of other good options, but he's definitely someone who, you could have drafted deep at wide receiver, and you might have a really good matchup that you can slot in over him.
I'm still playing Odell just for his talent. He's a guy that you only need a couple balls to go his way, and he might be squabbling with the team, but sure. if he gets a little slot catch, he can just run that right down the seam for a long ball.
Broken coverage, he can still score.
Yeah, I think this is a matchup where I'm not too scared of the offensive weapons here. I'm not really shying away because I'm not scared of the other team that much. Like, I think Tyler Boyd's going to have a fine bounce back game. Like, if you have a better matchup or a better player, I might still go with them over Boyd. But if Boyd's your flex guy, if he's your third wide receiver and you went running back heavy, I wouldn't shy away from Boyd this game. Like I said, we know what he's done in the past, and I think last week was just rust and rookie mistakes.
I was off Boyd in the offseason. I'm still off Boyd now. I don't know that team can support more than one wide receiver, and if I recall the numbers I was looking at earlier correctly, I believe John Ross actually outsnapped him.
Also, do you start John Ross?
No. I don't. The only Bengals I'm starting are Joe Mixon and AJ Green. I'm probably yes, you can find a matchup to go over Odell Beckham. I'm probably still starting Odell Beckham. I'm still starting Chubb. I'm still starting Kareem Hunt. I might start Austin Hooper in this one now that Njoku's out of the picture. But I don't love the total for this game. It's going to be a low-scoring game. One sneaky play that I actually think fantasy owners should be considering is, given that the Browns are at home for this one, and we know home defenses on Thursdays generally are a pretty good play, the Browns' defense against Joe Burrow in his second game isn't a bad play this week. I mean, I don't think the Browns are as bad as they showed last week. So if you get the Browns out there against a little bit easier of a matchup than the juggernaut that is the Ravens, you could bait Burrow into some picks. You could, at the very least, they're not going to score that many points, and they're probably going to get let up some pressure. So, but overall, not a very fun matchup. Not excited to watch it. But, it's the Thursday game we're given. So, I'll just look forward to
Thursday games just going to be all terrible again like they were last year?
God, I hope not. First 1 o'clock game is another low over-under. We have 49ers Jets sitting at 42.5 right now. And as I was saying when you were alluding to the fact that you were surprised they weren't the lowest total, this is just going to be one of those games that it's a 42-point over-under and the 49ers score 35 of those points, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would not be surprised after watching the Cards game last week if the Jets just don't score.
Yeah, this feels like an over-under where they're the Jets might get a touchdown.
Yeah, honestly, just with Kittle being banged up and just the 49ers style of play, I would not be surprised if this goes way under. I could see this one.
Oh yeah,
this one
14-7.
Oh yeah, this feels like one of those 2 field goal games for the Jets and 17 for the 49ers. Yeah, if I'm betting on the over under, I'm betting under just because I think both teams are not anywhere close to an offensive juggernaut. So
So the 49ers, you're going to start your studs. You're starting Mostert. You're starting Kittle if he plays. Maybe you start Ayuk if he's playing this week, just because he'll be their top pass catching option. Are you starting any Jets? Is there any Jet that you would plug into this match? Obviously Bell's not playing. Let's assume that Crowder's not playing.
There is one. His name is Mr. Chris Herndon. That is it. End of list for me. Purely because Denzel Mims is down. Bashard Perriman's going to be their top wide receiver. I at least like the talent of Herndon, and balls are going to be thrown in this matchup. Sure. I believe. I don't think it's going to be like the Vikings game where we get to the third quarter and 4 passes have happened.
Shout out Kirk Cousins.
That was obscene.
That was obscene. As a Thielen owner, I was ready to just jump out the window until they started oh, we have Thielen. Okay, and they just hammered the ball to him. But no, like I said, I think this is going to be a Herndon game if you're someone who went light on tight end, or if you're looking for a nice little matchup for DFS. Herndon's not a bad guy to play here.
Yeah, looking at Herndon's price, he is 3,400. The 49ers are pretty good against the tight end, but for 3,400, there are worse punts that you could do. So I'm not opposed to that.
I was actually looking for a cheap guy for my lineup. So.
The cheap guy that you should be targeting is someone that we're going to get to I think, tomorrow with the matchups, but Logan Thomas is only 3,600. Little sneak preview into someone who is going to be the chalk tight end value this week. Moving on to the next matchup here, Bills-Dolphins, same story, 41 point total. Same story as the last one. This feels like it's going to be a game where it's a 41 point total and the Bills score all 41 of the points.
See, this one I actually believe that the Bills could score enough to basically.
Oh yeah,
they could easily take 75% of those 41 points, and the Dolphins will take. We'll kick some field goals or something like that. Like just because the Bills be able to just whip it deep and score most plays with Jared Allen looking how good he is. This
Josh Allen.
No, Jared Allen.
I believe he's bow hunting in Minnesota.
Yeah, I miss Jared Allen.
I do too. Shout out Jared Allen if you're watching.
Yeah, but no, Josh Allen looked great. He's just a dynamic threat, and I don't think Miami has anything that they can really put up against him. The Patriots' offense is nowhere close to as dangerous as it was before, and they were still getting it done against them. So
yeah, we talked about it on Monday. That game would have been even more of a blowout if N'Keal Harry didn't gift them a touchback. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a game where the Bills' skill position players are just going to be able to score at will. Unless Devontae Parker plays this week, I'm not starting any Dolphins. But for the Bills, I'll start Josh Allen. I'll start Stephon Diggs. I'll start John Brown. If you're in need of a flex start, I'll start Zach Moss. I might start Devin Singletary. I like him less than Zach Moss because Zach Moss is the one who's going to get the touchdowns. But
as the Singletary fan in the room here, I have definitely cooled on Singletary over the past offseason and specifically after last week. He is the Bills for some reason are just like, hey, we have this guy who's
it's just Zach Moss is a much better running back,
we have this guy. Do we want to use him? No, we're just going to draft another guy and then we're going to use him.
I mean, he at least did get a fair amount of targets, so the passing work could at least save some of his value. But
yeah,
I would just rather go with.
I mean, if you need a flex start, I'm okay with Singletary. I think the matchup is good enough that, because like I said, the Bills should be scoring at will. I think the matchup is good enough that if you're in need of a flex start, if you've just been decimated by injuries so far, sure, throw him out there.
I still just a quick aside. I just wanted to bring up something I'm a little confused and frosty about. Marlon Mack is sitting at $5,000 right now on DK, whereas Zach Moss is at 48. So I don't. Is there some inside scoop I missed where IR players can sneak on the field wearing someone else's jersey and play, and he's going to somehow return $5,000 value? Or
they might have just not, because I don't know exactly when DK does their numbers, but they might have not had time to update for the IR designation.
I mean, he's got it tagged in there, and he's been dead for a while now. So
right, but he was officially declared out on Monday, I believe, and I'm if I recall, DK puts out their prices, essentially like right after the other week ends. So the price might have already been baked in there in case there was some miracle way he played this week, and then the news came out that he was officially.
Oh, I was able
out.
to do my this week lineups on before Monday night. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I believe they come out like right after the Sunday games finish.
Yeah.
So. I would be surprised if he's still at 5K next week. But yeah, Marlon Mack, obviously bad play. Definitely play Zach Moss over Marlon Mack this week if you were somehow having that as a thought. Another kind of garbage. I mean, it's going to be a shootout at least. But Lions, Packers, this one's at least got a high total, 49.5. I think the Packers are going to rout the Lions in this one, especially if Golladay doesn't play.
Yeah.
If Golladay is on the field, I'm a little more excited for this one being a back and forth game. I could see it going for the over. But I don't know. I mean, I'm excited to play Packers again.
This is definitely a Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams DraftKings stack week.
Oh,
yeah.
I was actually going to say I'm going to do something I don't usually do, Frankie, and I'm going to talk up about Aaron Jones. I think this is actually going to be a great game for him because I do think it's going to hit the over regardless. I think the Packers are going to score a lot of points, and Detroit, they'll do their fair share.
They'll keep it close enough that you got to. They're like, oh, they can come back. They're only 2 touchdowns down.
But I could see third and fourth quarter, they're up by 2.5 scores, and they're just like, all right, there you go, Aaron Jones, just pound it in there, and then maybe this is when Quadzilla rises from the depths. It could happen.
It
could happen.
Maybe.
Listen, we saw the Packers last week have a huge lead, and he did nothing.
Frankie, maybe it's because he's hiding in Lake Michigan, not Lake Superior.
Yeah, like I said, you only call Quadzilla is called. He is not summoned. They have to call to him to bring him out. They can't waste that in week 1.
Regardless,
but
I hope Kenny Golladay plays.
I'm pretty excited for this game. I'm starting all my Packers. I'm starting Devontae Adams, starting Rodgers, obviously, starting Aaron Jones. I'm starting Allen Lazard. I'm starting MVS. If you need to put one of them in, I think that there's gonna be enough points to go around in this game that it could just be a repeat of last week, where both Allen and MVS have perfectly fine fantasy weeks, or I could be wrong, and one of them could just get shunted to the side, and we could see who the true number 2 is. It's Lazard.
See, I like this contest, and I like both of them. But I think when I was looking through who I would pick for DK and probably for this week, at least for a flex start, I'm going MVS purely on Lazard. Clearly has the better hands, but MVS was just able to get open so much more. So it's he's gonna be open, so therefore Rodgers is going to go to him more.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if his hands aren't there, he's still going to get more targets just by sheer volume of being wide open and downfield and whatnot. So I think that type of talent is going to win him more targets than the surefire thing with Lazard.
I mean, on DraftKings, I am definitely doing MVS over Lazard, unless I'm just trying to go contrarian, just because MVS is about $1,000 cheaper than Lazard. Lazard's coming in at $5,300 and MVS is at $46. So that's a big enough price gap there where I'm starting MVS on DraftKings this week. I'm just saying in redraft you probably don't have both of them. I'm fine if you need a flex starting either of them this week. Lions side of the ball, you're starting Stafford, you're starting Hawk, you're probably starting Marvin Jones. If you need a flex start, you're starting Adrian Peterson. That's kind of it, I think.
If Golladay plays, you're obviously starting Golladay.
That's a given. I mean, Golladay is a tier of player that you just don't sit Golladay. So I think even if he's limited this week, I roll him out there because he's another player like Mike Evans where he needs one ball to pay off. Anyone that you guys can think of that I'm missing?
Honestly, maybe Hawk.
Well,
I said Hawk.
I guess what I would ask for both of you guys, are you doing a cheap play at Quintez Cephas?
I believe it's Quintez Cephas.
Cephas. Yeah, I mean, he didn't pull in a lot of balls, but he got 10 targets.
No, yeah, that's why I'm thinking. Yeah. DraftKings, yes, I'll roll him out there. Redraft, I've got to really need a flex start.
Yeah.
And just to put it out there, he is 3,800 right now on EK.
Yeah, no, I love his price. I love his price and opportunity on DraftKings, but outside of daily fantasy, in redraft, I've got to be really hurting. Like I drafted poorly at wide receiver, and I'm missing wide receivers.
Why are you staring at me?
Yeah, I have to have drafted like Frankie, where all of my wide receivers are hurt, and I'm literally starting a team.
Listen,
of backups.
We're gonna save that for the beer check because I got some stuff to say.
Broncos Steelers is the next one. It's another very low total, 41.5. Not surprised with what we saw that Pittsburgh Steelers defense play like on Monday.
That Broncos game
I feel bad for anyone who's counting on Broncos this week with how we saw that Pittsburgh Steelers defense play Monday. I'm probably if Philip Lindsay doesn't play, I'm putting Melvin Gordon in because I think Melvin Gordon has the talent to be able to kind of do what Saquon did, and catch enough balls to make up for his lack of work on the ground. If Philip Lindsay is in this week, I am sitting every single Bronco. I'm not starting anyone.
Yeah, fair enough. For me, it was if Philip Lindsay starts, he feels like he's going to be hyper limited. so I was still in on him as a flex play. Probably not DFS because I don't think his price will be right. And I think I'm a little more like, granted, Saquon's talent clearly over Melvin's.
Yeah.
But I think the offensive line is the big thing that'll kind of tip it in Melvin's favor a little bit because I think their line is still a little bit better. So at least Melvin will at least be able to get to the line before he gets hit.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean,
So-
that Steelers defense might be that good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm starting Noah Fant. I mean, especially if Sutton's
So like
still out.
Fant is probably someone though where if you drafted Fant, you likely drafted more than one tight end. You probably have a better start than Noah Fant.
I mean,
You might not.
yeah, I don't.
But I'm saying the vast majority of fantasy owners probably have a better start than Noah Fant this week because most people, if you're drafting a breakout guy, you're drafting more than one breakout guy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's also, especially if Sutton is still not 100%. I mean, he's definitely, I watched the game, 100% that guy on that team who is,
Sure.
I mean, honestly, he's the only reliable receiver I saw.
Sure. But like I said, the Steelers are a different caliber defense than the Titans. If Fant's the only one out there they have to worry about, the Steelers are just going to blanket him and he's going to get nothing. I don't care how good he is. He's not Calvin Johnson. He can't just go up in triple coverage and pull down balls. Or I guess a better in position comparison. He's not Rob Gronkowski. So if I have another option at tight end, I'm starting that. I don't want to. Maybe it was a week one fluke. Maybe the Giants are just bad, but I don't want to be the person testing this Steelers defense week 2 if I don't have to. Next game on the docket. Panthers Buccaneers, 47.5 point total. I think even without Godwin, this one's also just going to be free points. We saw the Panthers just get their throats ripped out last week. And the Buccaneers looked like you could score on them. So I'm kind of down on both of these defenses right now. The Buccaneers are heavy favorites at almost 10-point favorites. It's probably going to mean good things for any Panthers player you have. I mean, they're going to have to be throwing to keep up with these Bucs, even if they don't have Godwin. So, I mean, I'm just kind of starting everyone. I'm starting Brady. I'm not starting any running backs, but I'm starting Brady. I'm starting Mike Evans. I'm starting Godwin if he plays. I'm starting O.J. Howard. And on the Panthers side of the ball, I'm starting Bridgewater, starting CMC, starting DJ Moore, starting Robbie Anderson. You could even talk me into starting Curtis Samuel if you really need that as a flex play.
Yeah, I think this is it's going to be a sneaky shootout here. I think it's going to be similar, very similar, I think, to the Saints game. I mean, obviously the Panthers aren't that same offense, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of throwing the ball. I think CMC is going to get a lot of passing work.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers have a paper towel defense, a wet paper towel defense.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little bit on the opposite side of this one. I think the Bucs defense I think it was unfairly shown. I think the Bucs defense is a lot better than people give it credit because when you look at I think it was about almost at the end of the third, the Saints had 6 total yards of offense that half.
Yeah.
Like, the Saints honestly didn't look great, and on top of that, I think most of their production came off of short yardage due to pick sixes. Like, I think it was more, Brady's, missteps that put that defense in a hole. Because when you look at Brees only had less than 200 yards.
Sure.
Kamara got under 220 yards in both receiving and rushing. Like, they just benefited off of short yardage fields. Like, as we know, the Patriots, we were lighting people up and we felt like we were on top of the world, but we were only doing so well because our defense was killing bad teams. So
sure,
I think this is going to be a one-sided affair, and I think the studs will have a day, but I probably wouldn't start Robbie Anderson in this one.
Fair enough. And last game for today's rundown of games, another high total, and one that I'm actually a lot more excited for, specifically because of one play in this game. Vikings Colts, 48.5 point total. This is going to be like the game that I'm watching for the 1 o'clock hour because I want to see what a full game of Jonathan Taylor looks like. We just got to see the Vikings get pushed around by the Packers. I don't think their defense is as bad as it looked in that game, but I don't think it's anything great. So the Colts should be able to score on them. Obviously, the Colts have a middle-of-the-road defense, so I don't expect the Vikings to have a ton of trouble going the other way. I think this game could easily hit the over. I want the couple things that I want to watch for in this game is the Vikings passing volume going to go up, or is it going to stay kind of like it was? And then on the Colts side of the ball, what does Jonathan Taylor look like? How much of a workload do they give him right out of the gates? And does he get the CEH treatment where he gets 25 carries this week? And then is Paris Campbell legit? Because Paris Campbell looked like the best receiver on the field last week. If Phillip Rivers goes out there and, laser focuses him again as the top guy, might be a changing of the guard. It might be sayonara T.Y. Hilton, hello Paris Campbell. Because like I said, he was, I don't know if you guys went back and watched the highlights, but Paris Campbell was making a lot with the targets he got last week. He pulled in some hard balls too, and made some really good plays.
I'm very excited to see Kirk Cousins throw the ball 25 times again.
Did he hit 25?
He did. I was actually very.
It didn't feel like
when
it.
When I went to go check that stat, because I wanted to be sure I was 100%. I mean, a bunch of those had to come in the third and fourth quarter because they didn't.
Oh, they did, but it just didn't feel like he hit 25.
Yeah, I mean, actually, complete aside, one thing you were worried about with the Tennessee game, Tannehill threw the ball 43 times.
Right, but that's not how they want to play.
Right.
Vrabel came into that game with a mask that said, "Give the ball to Derrick Henry."
Yeah, like I said, it's their identity. They built it. That's why they paid Henry, because we know that past contracts with have kind of bit teams in the rear with the whole overpaying for running backs, Gurley being the prime example. So it easily could have been swung in their favor where they could have said, we'd love to give you money, but we're not giving you that much because of, we want to be able to build a team around you. And if we give you all this money, we can't give you a line, we can't give you a quarterback. But like I said, at the end of the day, they want to impose their will with their defense and their run game. I think it's one of those things where you have to play the game script. You can't just keep running it if you're down. So
yeah. And also a fun DraftKings take for this week too. Paris Campbell's only 4,500 this week. He is a smash play. He might be one of my money picks this week. He is a smash play at the position for that price. And actually, while we're on the subject of Colts the Colts might be a great, because Jonathan Taylor, because of the late breaking news of the official out for the season call for Mac, Taylor's only 5,700. The Colts, if I'm playing DraftKings this week, are a team that I want a lot of shares of, because, you can get Phillip Rivers for 5,900, Taylor for 57, Hines for 53, and Campbell for 45, and that gives you a lot of. You're basically capturing all of the passing volume there with a lot of freedom to set the rest of your lineup the way that you want. You can target some high value plays or some high cost plays with that line.
Yeah, and with that one, I would honestly, if I'm stacking Colts, I'm running it back with Thielen because he's expensive this week. But we saw even with low passing volume, Thielen's getting his, and then it's just how much is everyone else getting.
And if you're running that stack, you can afford Thielen.
Yeah,
Thielen's only 7,200, so it's like he's not bonkers expensive, and you're taking some value guys with that setup. So definitely an interesting way you can go. It seems like there's some massive pricing inefficiencies with the Colts this week.
Oh yeah, like I said, just me throwing a line haphazardly the other way right before we started the video, I was able to get Thielen and Adams in the lineup. No problem.
Yeah, that was pretty similar to one that I built earlier today. It was very. I didn't exactly look at Paris Campbell's price, but he was my flex guy in there.
As far as starts go, obviously we talked about the Colts. We want to start. I talked about the ones that I'm interested in watching as well. On the Vikings side of the ball, obviously you're starting Dalvin, you're starting Thielen. Are you starting anyone else? You're not starting Cousins in this matchup, are you?
If you want 5 passes.
With how he threw it last week?
No, I am.
Or you're not starting BC Johnson or Justin Jefferson, right?
No, I'm off everybody other than Thielen and Cook. I think that Colts defense was criminally underrated last year, and I think they're kind of in the same boat this year. They're a good defense. Dalvin's obviously going to get his because he's just going to get that off volume, but
A sneaky play just because of how much passing work he was getting is Alexander Madison might be a sneaky play for someone out there if you're really hurting a running back. Just because, like, I expect the passing volume to go up. I'm not yet there where I'm going to trust Kirk or Justin Jefferson. He's a rookie. For me, like I said, this is a smash lock on Thielen, Dalvin. Everyone else is a if I need them. Like, as someone who went late on quarterback, I was waffling with Kirk, but personally, I decided to just stick with Goff. But
I mean, he's the higher passing volume offense.
Exactly. That's kind of how I saw that they're going to throw. So I'd rather trust the passing volume there.
Okay, so we're saying you can get creative with the Colts. As far as the Vikings go, it's Dalvin and Thielen and sit everyone else. Or if you're still holding on to some of the other players, maybe it's just drop everyone else. I don't think Justin Jefferson's even worth holding at this point. Same with BC Johnson. You can find better streaming quarterbacks than Kirk. So should be a very entertaining game. Look forward to watching it. Hope you have the right Vikings if you're on the Viking side of this.
Nope.
Well, that's going to do it for our run of games today. Join us tomorrow as we go through the second half of the weekend slate and bring you our starts of the week and our money picks of the week. And, aside from that, have a good one. Hopefully you guys got your waiver targets that you were looking for, and you're building your lineups towards a bright week 2.
Well, let's do ourselves a beer check.
Yeah, let's do that beer check.
Just because we know it's Frankie already. So what do you have, Frankie?
I'm basically done with 2.
I am a third of the way through my first.
I am at the bottom of 1. So take it away.
Yeah.
I mean,
close it out, Frankie.
I mean, I already alluded to what this was going to be earlier. All of the hammy injuries and the other soft tissue injuries with, just wide receivers, if they could just stop. And I know that, with COVID, not having a preseason, obviously players are still getting their game speed back. But for me personally, it's just getting a bit much. I mean, I just said Cortland Sutton last week, which is a different issue, but Kenny Galladay's gone. Devontae Parker, another soft tissue injury, hammy. It's just, I just want the guys that I drafted high to be playing so my team can play to its full potential. And, I mean, granted, I still squeaked out a win. Shout out to Derrick Henry and Noah Fant. But
I think you mean shout out to Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley for putting you in a position to be able to squeak out a win.
Also, shout out to Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley. Super happy I drafted him. But no, I think that this is something that unfortunately we're going to see, I wouldn't say a lot more of, but a fair amount of with these opening weeks is we're going to see those like kind of minor injuries that might hamper players a little bit more because they're still getting used to that game speed and still, getting. I mean, we heard about it. We saw fourth quarter in a lot of games last week was just sloppy, and that's opposite side of the ball with defenses. But I think that this is again going to be a weird season because of no preseason / COVID.
It goes back to what we were preaching beforehand. Draft smart, draft for depth, because this is going to be a tough season. There's going to be players that go on the COVID list. There's going to be players that just can't go to start the year because of injuries, because this is basically an extended preseason. So hopefully you all listen to us and drafted for depth, because it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, or at least the players that already have the soft tissue injuries are going to have to work them out. There's a lot of big names that have, hammies and quads. All right. Well, like I said, join us tomorrow as we go through the second half of the slate. We will see you all then.